Speaker Tim Jones joining us right now. Tim, how'd you like that Super Bowl last night?
Oh, Mark, making Super Bowls great again. I loved it.
I like it. I like it.
It was supposed to be not that there are definitely some legitimate Atlanta Falcons fans. Of course there are, but a lot of people on the left were just rooting against Tom Brady because apparently he's friends with Trump and all that. And so,
right.
It was just a final nail in their completely dismantled coffin. I just loved it.
I said it when we went on the air today, but one of our friends here at the radio station, who I won't identify, put out a post on Facebook that said, if you know anybody who had a Hillary Clinton sign in their front yard and supported the Atlanta Falcons, you should go do a safety check on them today, just in case.
Yeah, it's awesome, Mark. I also saw somebody put a meme up last night on Twitter, and it was a picture of Hillary Clinton, right? And the little caption was, "Who blows a 25-point lead?" Oh. Then it had Hillary.
My favorite one the other day was Groundhog's Day when it showed Hillary out in the woods, and it said, Hillary Clinton saw her shadow today, 4 more years of not being president.
Oh, no.
I'm glad there's some witty people in the world.
Yes, good times for us.
Exactly. So Governor Greitens, I saw his news conference today down in Springfield, where I think he signed the first version of Right to Work, the first bill.
Yes, he did, Mark. And the reason he went down to Southwest Missouri, I can tell you, Mark, from my time in the legislature, the Southwest and the Southeast Missouri folks, the legislators down there and their constituents were the ones really pushing hard for this for like the past, 2 decades or more. And I'll tell you why, Mark, because down there on those borders and those border areas of our state, in Southwest Missouri, they look across at all the stuff and the factories and the manufacturing being built in Oklahoma and Kansas. And then on the southeast side, they're always staring across the border into Arkansas. And the legislators down southeast Missouri will tell you that they can literally see these factories on the other side of the border in northeast Arkansas going up, these multi-million-dollar massive manufacturing facilities employing thousands of people. And they're going up there and not in Missouri because we're not a right-to-work state. There's a representative down there named Don Roan. He was just elected a couple of years ago. He gave one of the best speeches on the floor, I heard. This was 2 years ago when they tried to do the override. And he went through in painstaking detail what he saw happening across the border from his district, which borders Arkansas, and what a shame it was that Missouri was not getting these jobs here. Because I'll tell you what, Mark, Missouri, I'll tell you, can beat anybody. We can beat Arkansas. We can beat Oklahoma. We beat Illinois every single day, and we can beat all these other border states. But we just didn't have the tool in the toolbox of the new economic model of right to work like the other half of the country has. And now we're the 28th state. It's no longer an experiment, Mark. It's an economic reality that if you want jobs and you want growth, and yes, you want higher wages. And yes, I said that. Right-to-work states are no longer lagging in the wage category either. That's a fallacy perpetuated by the left. And that's where all the manufacturing plants and the jobs are going, to the states that have lower taxes and are worker freedom states.
Right. So we don't have that problem on this side of the state, do we? Because Illinois, they're probably scaring jobs over here on this side of the state.
Well, Mark, that's exactly right. That's why there was never as big of a push over here, was
right.
Because we could always say, well, there's Illinois, and they're worse. And so I just don't think that's a great mantra.
No, exactly.
So, but you're right, though. You're right. And so that's why the governor is traveling the entire state today. He's doing a ceremonial signing in Springfield. He's doing a ceremonial signing in Poplar Bluff, which also happens to be where the current Speaker of the House, Todd Richardson's from. And then he'll go back to back to Jefferson City tonight, and he will officially sign the official bill. It'll go into effect, I believe, August 28th, when the rest of the legislative bills from this session go into effect.
I've said it before, but I think it bears repeating because several people have told me. In fact, my son came home last night. He'd been at a party somewhere at a friend's house, and the issue of right to work came up, and somebody said, I don't really understand what that means. And he said that he explained it to them based on what he'd heard from me, but my take on it, Tim, is pretty simple. People can work at a place and not be required to participate in the union dues in that workplace. I don't, in terms of existing unions and existing collective bargaining agreements, I do not see this as a threat to unions, because I've worked in union shops where if somebody waltzed in the door and got hired and then refused to participate in the union, that would not be a pleasant place to work.
Mark, you've hit the nail on the head. You just summed up the whole thing perfectly. The entire right to work bill, Mark, that they just passed is less than 2 pages long. And Mark, sometimes the best bills are beautiful in their simplicity, because it does exactly what you said it does, no more, no less. It does not bust unions. It does not prevent unions. You know what it does, Mark? It makes the labor bosses and the corporate bosses both compete on a level playing field for the worker. This is worker empowerment. You know, the left always likes to talk about empowerment and all the special stuff they like to give people. This levels the playing field and puts the worker in charge, because now they can decide when they go to a place of employment that has an agreement with a union, the worker can say, I want to join this union because they're putting out a really good product, and I like their pension plan, and I like what they stand for and the things they get done. Or they can say, you know what? I don't want to join the union at this place because they're not doing a good job. I've heard from the fellow workers they're just not that great, and so I don't want to join them. That's all it does, Mark. That's all it is. I've said this time and time again. I'm like a broken record at this point, but Indiana went right to work about 7-8 years ago. Over the last 5 years, Indiana has not only added over 150,000 regular jobs. Out of those 150,000, 40,000 of them were union jobs. Why? Because the labor bosses in Indiana finally had to start putting forward good products for their workers with their collective bargaining agreements and their union membership. And Mark, you know what? The folks on the left they use empathy and they use emotion anytime they're talking about the subject, but they ignore the facts. And all you have to do is look at the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, the government-run U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis for the last 10 years, and the GDP growth and the job growth in right-to-work states is far surpassing non-right-to-work union shop states. And guess what? The wage growth is dead even. So no longer can people say on the left that this drives down wages. That's an absolute fallacy. It's not at all true. It makes the labor bosses compete for their labor workforce just like the CEOs have to do.
Yeah, and I think that's got a lot to do with their opposition to it. I mean, from the labor, I think the bosses in a lot of these labor unions have done a lot of damage, scaring their union employees for no reason. Their union members.
And Mark, look, because it's not an experiment anymore, and what I mean by that is now it's 28 states. It was 27 states before Kentucky became the 27th. Missouri's 28. Do we really want to be the ones operating under an antiquated economic failed model that Wisconsin has rejected, Indiana has rejected, Michigan has rejected, and all of our other bordering states have now rejected except for Illinois? Do we really want to be the one spot in the Midwest that is a jobs vacuum where manufacturers do not even look at going and where they're leaving in droves? And if you're a Trump fan, if you're a labor guy or a labor lady who loved Trump, then you have to pay attention to who he wants to be his Secretary of Labor. That's St. Louis's own Andrew Puzder, who is the CEO of Hardee's.
Right.
And he said he was pulling Hardee's out of St. Louis last year. Why? Because we are not a right-to-work state, and because we have margin. All things being equal, our tax structure here is very high and punishing to business owners.
Well, that's as telling as anything.
Yeah, and Mark, all it does, it puts us on a level playing field with all of our neighbors and with
Sure.
other people in the state who are trying to create jobs. And I'm telling you, I know we have a lot of labor folks who listen to this station. And I want them to keep listening because I want them to keep learning the facts. I want them to know they do not have to be scared about this. The final point I'll make, Mark, there's a grandfather clause the legislature wisely put in this bill. That way, nobody's apple cart is going to get upset this year. And you have until August, I think it's August 28th. It may not even, I'll have to look at the bill, but it's at the very least, it's August 28th. If your union wants to renegotiate and renew a long-term contract with the employer for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you have the right to do that. And this bill will not affect you at all. Mark, this is for the future. We're not going to punish any current labor people. No current labor people are going to be harmed in any way. What this is going to do is for the kids and the grandkids of these workers. We want them to stay in Missouri because we want them to have opportunity here. And while we were a closed union shop state, Mark, businesses left. Being a union state didn't keep Chrysler here, didn't keep Ford Hazelwood here, didn't keep the Corvette plant in North St. Louis here, didn't keep all these other mom-and-pop manufacturers here. It's done nothing for us except drive jobs out. I really think this is going to put us back on the map of Missouri being open for business. And no, it is not a silver bullet. I've said that time and time again. We still got a lot of work to do on our budget, spending, taxes, tort reform, education reform, but it is a necessary tool to have in our toolkit.
Well explained, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate you giving us some time this afternoon, since I always want to try to educate people on this, and that hopefully that's what we do here every day.
Yeah, hopefully that helps, Mark, and
yes.
It's always good to speak with you.
Hey, Tim, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, absolutely.
All right, take care of yourself. Tim